From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on your MTN statewide news on this Monday. I'm Andrea Lutz. So today, Montana enters the Greg Gianforte era. The businessman and former U.S. congressman was officially sworn in as Montana's 25th governor. MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison takes us there.
At a small ceremony in the governor's conference room this morning here in the Capitol behind me, Greg Gianforte was sworn in as Montana's 25th governor. He's also the first Republican governor in 16 years. At his swearing-in ceremony this morning, along with his Lieutenant Governor, Kristen Juris, he promised to lead Montana's comeback from the economic devastation of the pandemic. He noted that his swearing-in ceremony was like no others, and that there were no big crowds, no big celebrations in the Capitol, just as many Montanans across the state had had to sacrifice things that they do. He talked about the new heroes of the pandemic, such as frontline healthcare workers, first responders, teachers, and parents staying home to teach their children during the pandemic. He outlined core principles that he emphasized during his campaign: economic growth, more jobs, a more responsive government, and a more frugal government. Gianforte closed his opening remarks by saying that he believes there's more that unites Montanans than separates Montanans, and he offered to work with people of all political stripes to advance the state. In Helena, I'm Mike Dennison for MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mike, for that. And happening right now, in fact, at the Montana Capitol, legislators are gathering at noon as we speak for the 67th Montana Legislature as it convenes. We want to show you a live look right now inside the House. And as you can see, that's where lawmakers are being sworn in for a Republican majority-led legislature, ready, of course, to advance those GOP priorities. Lawmakers want to rein in state spending and protect and expand personal freedoms, such as those on speech, religion, and the right to bear arms. This year's policies will likely impact the pandemic-battered economy and shape policy on marijuana use. We are continuing to cover this, and we're going to have updates on today's events in Helena on our 5:30 news. President Trump is still trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. His latest try comes in a phone call to Georgia's top election official, asking him to find votes. Still, he would need a few other states to help flip to give him that 270 electoral college votes. Deborah Alfarone is in Washington, where there's also an election challenge brewing from Republicans on Capitol Hill.
During a remarkable hour-long phone call with Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, President Trump pressured him to find enough votes to change the election outcome in his state.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Everything we've done for the last 12 months follows the Constitution of the state of Georgia, follows the United States Constitution.
The president went on to imply that the Republican and his lawyer could face consequences for not helping him.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk.
The president's extraordinary phone call is surfacing just days before Congress is expected to certify Joe Biden's presidential victory. But before that happens, at least a dozen Senate Republicans and several more in the House plan to contest the Electoral College results.
And we've seen in the last 2 months unprecedented allegations of voter fraud.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz is pushing for an emergency 10-day audit of the election returns from 6 states, citing public mistrust in the results. The move has some Republicans asking their colleagues to move on.
This is bad for the country and bad for the party.
Democrats call the plan a publicity stunt, and a spokesman for President-elect Biden's transition team says it won't change the fact that Joe Biden will be sworn in on January 20th. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
All right, Senator Steve Daines is among a handful of Republicans that are rejecting the Electoral College results. Those senators want an electoral commission formed to conduct an audit of the results. The group acknowledges that movement is unlikely to change the results of the presidential election, saying they fully expect Democrats and a few Republicans to vote otherwise. They also asked the senator if he is concerned about potential voter fraud in Montana. Daines and other senators did not specify whether they found significant evidence of voter fraud. There's now a number of record women serving in Congress. There's 144 women. The boost is driven by gains of Republican women. There were 29 Republican women, 89 Democrat women that are now serving. And Cynthia Lummis became the first woman to represent Wyoming in the U.S. Senate. Lummis, a Republican, took the oath in front of Vice President Mike Pence. She served 4 terms in the U.S. House before retiring in 2017, but decided to run for Mike Enzie's seat after he retired. All right, let's check in now on the weather across the great state of Montana. There's our Miller Robson. He's going to give us the update.
Well, Andrea, I just want to say thank you for giving me the idea of taking my family to Red Lodge over the weekend. Absolutely wonderful town there. Wasn't expecting to go up to the mountain, the ski resort. We went up there and I wasn't dressed properly. I'll tell you that. It was nice and cold. Speaking of snow, how would you like to see some snow in the area? Well, we're already starting to see some off to western part of our state. But here in Billings, a lot of folks are wondering about that. I'm going to tell you more about that with the main forecast and the rest of the state as well. Now, if you're on the western part of the state, you have a better chance of seeing that snow. In fact, we'll see some winter weather advisories in effect a little bit later on today through tomorrow morning. And not just because of the snow where we could see several inches accumulating, but it's going to be quite windy too. And that's going to shift throughout the state tonight and tomorrow because we have a rather strong cold front coming through. That's round number 1. Now, it's not affecting our temperatures. We're warmer than normal. We're going to stay that way all the way through Thursday. But our secondary cold front, that one on Thursday, really will cool things down. We'll take a look with the main forecast coming up. Andrew.
All right, thanks, Miller. This afternoon, the latest COVID-19 numbers across the state show 428 new cases have been added to Montana. The statewide death toll has reached over 1,000 deaths. Total cases are now at over 83,000 and recoveries are over 77,000. Following the discovery of a new COVID-19 variant in the U.S. that spread from England, the CDC is planning to screen now for others. The agency wants to go from screening 3,000 COVID samples a week to over 6,500. Scientists will study the genome sequences to watch for any new mutations. Last month, the CDC gave $15 million to state health labs to make extra screenings possible. Before COVID, shaking hands was a common way to greet people, and we never usually thought even anything about it. Well, etiquette experts expect that it will be okay to go back to shaking hands at some point when it is safe to do so. However, many say they are hesitant. A recent Harris poll found 54% of people would be happy to never shake someone's hand again. In those instances, it's up to that person who does not want to shake hands to let the other person know. There are also alternative greetings that we have been using and we can continue to use in the future. Those things like elbow bumps and fist bumps and head nods. A simple verbal hello might also just be what we use. Superintendent of Public Instruction Elsie Arntzen says one of her early top priorities is canceling federal standardized tests in 2021. Arntzen argues with many students learning from home that the results could be skewed. The state received a waiver last year canceling the ACT for 11th graders and math, science, and reading tests for 3rd through 8th graders. These exams are used to judge how much students have learned and shape curriculum. Arntzen doesn't think it's fair to do that in such an unprecedented time.
The data chain is broken. We have to begin again. I do not believe this is the year to have a baseline test to start again. This is a great opportunity. We're not maverick here by any means, but I do believe that we recognize what's best and what's important to our students and that local control, which is so important.
Arntzen already petitioned to get a waiver for science testing in November. She'll send the reading and math waiver requests on February 5th. They say all good things must come to an end, and that includes the teepees that spent weeks lighting up the Billings rims. They were put up by the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council and other community organizers to honor the lives lost by COVID-19. Even though the teepees are gone, their rock rings will remain as an ongoing tribute. Organizers say they were blown away by how much the teepees meant to people.
Very powerful to see the community coming together as a whole, just everybody, not just the Native community, but everybody as a whole from across all races, religions, and all that. It brought unity up, so that was kind of the goal we had.
They were are awesome to see. We do have more news ahead on the new news on this Monday, including this: nonprofits getting creative with ways to donate. We'll show you how. And Miller's back in with a look at that forecast.